Today's episode is about a man who set Europe on fire, not with armies or weapons, but with words. His name was Voltaire, and he had the sharpest pen of the Enlightenment. A man who dared to speak when silence was safe, and wielded sarcasm with a sword like nature, cutting through hypocrisy, superstition and blind obedience. By the end of this episode, you'll see how his revolutionary ideas on freedom, reason and human virtue can still guide us through chaos today, an age marked by censorship, dogma and relentless noise. Before we dive in, the episode is fueled by Strong Coffee Company and brew for thinkers and doers, focused performance, zero crash. Get 20% off with your code Vancrux1 at strongcoffeecompany.com. Back to the episode. Voltaire wasn't a quiet philosopher tucked away in an ivory tower. He was a storm. He wrote plays, poetry, essays, histories, and over 21,000 letters, producing more than 2,000 works in total. He once declared, "My trade is to say what I think." Let's just repeat that. My trade is to say what I think. And say he did, fearlessly, wittily, and without compromise, in a age today where people can't really say what they think. His masterpiece, Candide, taught into blind optimism, the naive idea that all is for the best in the best of all possible worlds. Through dark, biting comedy, Voltaire exposed the hypocrisy of philosophers and priests who told the poor to quote-unquote trust God's plan, while doing nothing to ease their suffering. He wasn't a pessimist either. He rejected Pascal's gloomy view on human deprivation. Voltaire stood between despair and disillusion. He believed in reason, virtue and deliberate action as humanity's tool to carve light out of chaos. His message? You can't control a storm, but you can cultivate your garden, meaning take charge of your small corner of the world, build something meaningful and act instead of waiting for miracles. Voltaire believed that waiting for divine intervention was a trap. If you rely on miracles or blindly accept dogma, you risk doing nothing while the world burns. Worse, he argued, if you believe in absurd ideas as truth, you're far more likely to commit atrocities. History is full of those who justify cruelty in the name of God, superstition or religion. Voltaire's God wasn't a bearded figure in the clouds. He envisioned the divine as a captain who built the ship, set the laws of nature, and then let it sail. This was his deism, the belief that reason, not revelation, was the true path to understanding existence. In this metaphor, we are the crew. God set the compass, the laws of physics, morality and logic, but we must steer the ship ourselves. No divine hand will correct your course. You have reason, free will, and the capacity to think. That is your navigation system. God gave us reason so that we would not need miracles. Voltaire's message was clear. Stop waiting for the captain to steer, pick up the wheel and sail your own ship. He said, crush the infamous thing. It was his famous battle cry, the freedom from dogma, targeted superstition, fanaticism and clerical abuse. He's saying religion wasn't necessarily or inherently evil, but dangerous when it is replaced for thinking, essentially. You can't replace thinking with obedience. Imagine if every belief you hold was chosen for you before you could question it. How many of your convictions are truly yours and how many are inherited scripts? Voltaire believed truth must be tested, not trusted. He challenged power with logic, laughter, and relentless courage. using reason as a weapon and wit as a shield. He put limits on optimism, the Candide paradox. Candide is the story of a young man, sheltered and naive, who travels the world after being expelled from his idyllic home. He encounters war, natural disasters, corruption, betrayal, and human cruelty at every turn. Through his dark comedy, Voltaire critiques the idea that all is for the best in the best of all possible worlds. Life is brutal, absurd, and unpredictable, but that doesn't mean we should surrender or cling to false hope. Life isn't a painting hung by God, it's clay, and we are the sculptors, he said. To say everything is for the best is to stop sculpting altogether. Voltaire's conclusion was that we must cultivate our own garden and remind us that meaning isn't granted by destiny, miracles, or divine plans. It's created through deliberate action, work, and personal responsibility. Voltaire was a staunch defender of religious tolerance. No one should be persecuted for belief or, in fact, disbelief. His target was fanaticism, not faith. He understood that unquestioned belief often leads to cruelty. Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. True tolerance, he argued, isn't agreement, it's coexistence through reason. What if every person you argue with is simply you, born in a different system of belief? Would you debate differently? Captivated by Newton and Locke, Voltaire promoted their ideas across France. The universe followed discoverable laws, not divine whims. Through science, humanity could rise above myth and fear. It is perfectly evident to my mind that there exists a necessary, eternal, supreme and intelligent being. This is no matter of faith but reason, he says. To Voltaire, reason was sacred, not because it kills mystery, but because it reveals beauty through truth. Science for him was a form of worship, understanding creation through curiosity and observation. He distrusted democracy, calling it the idiocy of the masses. But he believed in liberty, fairness and reasoned governance. He championed a constitutional monarchy led by rulers wise enough to protect rights. He saw injustice as the true enemy. The clergy is corrupt, and the commoners as deliberately kept arrogant or ignorant. His ideal was an enlightened monarch guided by philosophers rather than priests. A ruler who governed through reason, not divine right. A king without reason is a candle in a storm, doomed to flicker out. A people without rights are the darkness that follows. Voltaire believed work was the antidote to despair. In the end, Candide concludes not with philosophy but action. We must cultivate our own garden. What if meaning isn't discovered but manufactured? Each day you plant a seed of improvement, a habit, a skill, an act of kindness. You're cultivating your own garden. In Voltaire's world, work wasn't just labour, it was rebellion against chaos. A declaration that no matter how absurd existence may seem, we can still create order, beauty and purpose. This episode is sponsored by More Labs, recovery energy drinks for high performers. Use promo code Vancrux1 at morelabs.com for 25% off. Back to the episode. Voltaire's ideas helped ignite the Enlightenment, a movement championing freedom of speech, separation of church and state, and the scientific pursuit of truth. He fought for religious tolerance, freedom of expression, rational governance, the end of superstition and social injustice. Through all his wit and rebellion, one principle remained. Reason is sacred because it frees. Voltaire reminds us that the true battle isn't against faith or politics. It's against intellectual laziness. It's against letting others think for us. Enlightenment isn't an historical period, it's a state of mind for Voltaire. The real revolution begins when you stop asking for permission to think. Pick up the pen, plant your seeds, cultivate your garden, and shape your corner of the world. Voltaire's pen may be gone, but his echo remains in every act of courage, every question asked, and every truth spoken. In an age of noise and conformity, he'd remind us, don't be afraid to think differently. Be afraid to never think at all. This episode was brought to you by Liquor Gummies, the smartest way to enjoy your night and feel great the next day. Get yours as liquor.com, that's liqure.com, 20% off with code Vancrux1.